Welcome to the Humankindness at Work podcast, where you'll hear inspiring stories of people just like you making a difference in their corner of the world. You'll hear how human kindness is at work and how you can be a part of it. I'm Jennifer Clark. Ready to be inspired? Here we go. Have you heard that famous line about parenting? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, what if you don't have one? A village, that is. What if being a new parent feels isolating, scary, and completely overwhelming? I bet if you've been a parent at any stage, you can relate to these feelings. My guest today was in that same place. Vanessa Rio didn't have a village, so she built one. And this support system that was birthed from her own journey into motherhood has grown into the United Kingdom's first platform delivering online therapy and support groups for soon-to-be and new parents. Vanessa is the founder of Mothering Minds. She's a mom, a wife, an entrepreneur living an off-grid island life and doing her part to make a difference in new parents' mental health. Welcome to the podcast, Vanessa Rio.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank you for being with us all the way from the other side of the world right now, right?
Yes.
You're in the Philippines right now?
Yes, we are.
That's amazing.
As far apart as we could be geographically.
Just about. Oh, but still so much in common, and we're going to jump into that. I would love for you to start off by just telling us a little bit about your journey into motherhood.
So almost 4 years ago, sort of pretty much to the date. My daughter was born on the 13th of March, actually. So, I became a mum, and I thought I was prepared, but obviously, just like so many other parents, reality hit, and it was a lot harder than I expected. We started with my husband and me sort of the first 2 weeks we had together, and we, cared for her. And it was, in a way, it was a really blissful start to postnatal life. But the problems really started when he went back to work. And then I found myself caring for my daughter every day, almost the entire day on my own, feeding, rocking, trying to get out with her, but all of that on no sleep, and really confused about how to best care for her as well. And I really didn't understand why I was struggling so much, and I felt like it was some kind of personal failure to be maternal enough, or to somehow have tapped into this instinct of just managing. And as the weeks and months dragged on, I did develop, obviously with all the physical exhaustion, also mental health issues that went along with it. And I did reach out, or try to reach out for help, but many of my symptoms didn't really meet the thresholds that we have with our public health service here in the UK. And so unfortunately, I wasn't offered any support. And I was sort of told that, a lot of these things are normal and they're very common. I'll get over it and it'll be a phase. And in the meantime, I could just, enjoy every minute.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that phrase, enjoy every moment. And it usually comes from well-meaning people who love me, but at the worst possible time. Like when my baby had diarrhea on an airplane and it leaked all over me, or when my toddler had a meltdown in the grocery store, or when my teenagers are pushing boundaries as they navigate their growing independence. The truth is, not every moment is enjoyable. Parenting can be really hard. Vanessa realized this pretty quickly during her entrance to motherhood. She realized she couldn't be the only parent struggling with this new role, so she decided to make a difference in the challenge she was facing. And Mothering Minds was born.
Yeah, so after I struggled, and then was speaking to other mums, other dads as well, and realizing this was definitely something that seemed to be shared among a lot of us. I also asked about any support that people were getting, and some people were enjoying a strong family support and were coping through that way. Others had gone to their GPs and been prescribed antidepressants, but hardly anyone was actually being treated with what they really wanted, which was talk therapy,
Mm,
because the waiting lists were so long. And so after realizing there was a demand and myself reaching out to a perinatal therapist and really benefiting from that, I saw that there was demand and there was a need. So initially it started as an informal collective of therapists,
mm,
um, and they would just share referrals and I would manage it. But word of mouth and just the kind of the women that were coming through and were telling us how much this was helping them just made me feel like I
mm.
really wanted to actually embark on this project and grow this. And so I refined the business model and launched a platform last year in June, that now has sort of the capacity to actually serve the UK. And we're constantly growing our team of therapists, training them in the perinatal specialism. So they come to us with the perinatal specialisms, but we
Okay.
use all the extra sort of client insight that we've gathered, to make sure that everybody is the sort of as up to date on this growing field and field that
Mm.
gets more and more research poured into every year, as possible.
Mothering Minds says they exist to help new parents feel human again. And if you've ever been in the new parent phase, the one where you can't remember when you last slept or showered or ate, you know that desire is real.
I think it touches really the essence of what is sort of out of balance with modern parenthood.
Mm.
And what we're seeing is that parents are almost expected, sort of societally, to not have any needs and
Yeah.
not have any feelings themselves either, but to be
Yeah.
entirely centered around the infant. And
Mm.
that the baby's needs are prioritized, but not only as in they are important, but that whatever the need is, the parent's need, if in any way it's conflicting with the infant's need, is to be disregarded. And that predominantly affects the mother. And so this decentering of the mother and the centering of the infant actually does create a lot of problems for maternal well-being, but also for both parents, because it just makes it so difficult to look after a baby, pouring everything of yourself into it, but not having any sense or context around how much care you would need during this time.
Yeah.
Whereas historically and cross-culturally, it is better understood that new parents actually need really strong support in order to support the baby, and that mothers in particular need an extensive period of recovery after giving
Yeah.
birth in order for them to physically get the strength and emotionally and mentally ease into matrescence so that they can be happy and joyful mothers.
Decentering of self. Wow. Does that ring true for you, parents? So, if we are parents, how do we recenter ourselves in a healthy way? For all of us, how do we make a difference for the parents around us?
The solution is complex and big, but I do think one thing that could contribute to improving the situation is to understand that in the in new parenthood, caring for the parents and especially caring for the mother is maybe the predominant role for society, because the
Mm,
mother or the parents care for the baby anyways. They are focused on the baby, and the mother's brain has been rewired during pregnancy
yeah.
to be so focused on the child and overrides her own systems anyway. So we know that biologically, neurologically, as a mother, you are wired to prioritize your child's needs, to not eat, drink, pee, to
Yeah.
do any of those things because your baby is crying and all you
Yeah.
want is for this baby to be content again. And if this is what our bodies are doing anyway, then we don't need society to reinforce this message.
Mm.
What we actually need is for society to go, wow, here is a, a human being that has, already grown this child and is now most likely completely committed to making this baby as happy and content as possible. Maybe we can support her. Maybe we can feed her while she's feeding the baby and help her get whatever things she needs done so that she can focus on what she wants to focus on in those initial months anyway.
A lot of first time moms struggle silently with an identity shift, guilt, or isolation. Maybe you're like me and you lost yourself in the early years of motherhood. Maybe you forgot who you were, what you're good at, and your entire identity came from your little one's lips. Mom.
What is happening? There is a shift happening around our understanding of motherhood. And I think a lot of our sort of more recent views are moving away from motherhood as a very defined role that almost exists at the exclusion of anything else. And if you're a mother, this needs to be the main thing you are, and it needs to be the focus of your identity, but almost to a point of flattening the woman into an idealized version of a mother that doesn't actually exist. And that somehow is some mixture of social media and maybe traditional sort of storytelling narratives that don't work for the modern age. And the shift away from that can be really helpful, where we actually accept that the woman becoming a mother has not actually got rid of any of her previous complexity or nuance or desires. She's expanded. She's expanded into incorporating mother as part of her identity, whereas all the other parts shift alongside to make room to reconfigure. But there is actually an expansion of this person that's taken place. And in order to, rather than suppressing that, that could be encouraged, and it could be so useful and beneficial for really the wider community.
One of the things I love about Vanessa's story is that she didn't wait for someone else to make a difference. She needed mental health support as a new mom, so she started Mothering Minds. And when she realized that she still didn't have the village she deeply desired to help raise her daughter, she and her husband made a big change.
I was loving the company and what we were achieving. And at the same time, my understanding of modern parenthood deepened, and obviously with the research I was doing and with the women we were speaking to. And I felt it in my own life that while mental health support is really important, the systemic lens tells us that this collective care and this community support is so vital for parents to thrive. And that's something that's really missing in much of the rich world. We have quite individualist lifestyles, and that works really well for capable, independent, and fully. It works for adults that don't have anyone in their care, and those who do have to look after anyone, even aging parents, it's as soon as there's a caregiving role involved, we almost have to fend for ourselves as well as fend for this other person on our own. And that is incredibly difficult. Whereas we know that anthropologically, humans have never lived like this. They've never lived as isolated lives as we do, and as autonomous and independent. And I felt it particularly because my family wasn't in the same country as me. So as just like so many women who, went and moved for uni and career and love, they find themselves becoming mothers really far away from their own mothers or their sisters or greater family network. And so to only ever get support with childcare or practical support when I arranged it and we paid for it and we scheduled it in, and there was no sort of spontaneous organic support happening around us. It was really
Hmm.
exhausting, even just the mental load of organizing all that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we did explore other places where we might actually experience some of that collective care. And I have a connection to the Philippines because my mum is a Filipina. She lives in Austria, but I had fond memories of childhood holidays and seeing working communities and families that were very close and supportive, and we wanted to try it. And so we moved in September. It's now been 6 months, and I have to say it's been amazing, and it really met my expectations in terms of
Mm.
how integrated children are into society and how natural it is for people to just keep an eye on those who just need a hand. It can be the elderly, it can be people who are just in any way in need, but children especially. There's just a sense of collective responsibility.
Mm. That's beautiful. So, with that in mind, what if listeners are living in a society that is very individualistic?
Mhm,
What if they're here in the US? I mean, I think even within a country that is typically individualistic, like the United States, there can be pockets of community, right? There can be
mhm,
subcultures that do that really well.
mhm,
But what if listeners are living in a very individualistic society or subculture and they want what you are experiencing? They want to build their own village because they don't have one. What
mhm.
would you suggest to them?
It's a great question because so many people are bound to their location for many different reasons. Uh,
Mhm.
and so what happens with a lot of our clients that we see at Mothering Minds who are also they're getting their mental health support, but they're realizing they need practical support and they need people to step up and be a
Yeah.
village. So we usually suggest to start small. One, to work better as a couple. So if there's some room for improvement there with the teamwork, that's often a good place to start because those are two people that are committed to this child, that are committed to making the family work. And so even just working out the dynamics between the couple can already take a lot of pressure off one parent
Mm.
and resolve maybe some ways in which sort of work from on both sides has misfired or fired into the wrong direction, and just aligning the team is a really great start. But then beyond the team, the for the couple to actually sort of thrive in new parenthood, both sides need people that can be supportive to them.
Yeah.
This is often a tricky bit for fathers, but for fathers to develop friendships with men who
Mm.
can emotionally support them, who can practically step up, and to not be afraid or ashamed
Mm.
or feel like a failure if they reach out for advice
Yeah.
or for help, could not only help them but could take a real load off their partners. Because as you know, as you probably know, we can really feel it if our partners are stressed, if they
Mhm.
feel maxed out, then we take on more because we don't want to burden
Yeah.
them. And to feel that no, there's a source, there's further people in the extended network that are there for them,
Mhm.
could make make the partner feel more willing to rest and more willing to just say, I think I'm at capacity and I'm going to leave the rest to be done by someone, and I'm not going to manage it.
Whether or not you have children of your own, all of us can help create a culture that supports parents, values children, and participates in raising them. Vanessa has some suggestions of how human kindness can be at work in us toward parents, particularly parents of young kids.
Something I struggled with in the UK was that there was a sense that children were not welcome in certain
Mm.
contexts, or
Mhm.
or if they were there, then they were supposed to be they were supposed to behave like little adults. So they were
Yes.
supposed to be
Yeah.
quiet and not make any noise. And then what happens is that parents are really stressed about this,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they put their kids in front of a screen, and then they feel really
Yeah.
bad, really guilty, like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I'm giving my child all this screen time because I just want to be out sometimes. Uh,
Mhm.
and I feel if we could be more relaxed around children's presence, around the fact that
Yeah.
they can be noisy, that they might have meltdowns, that
Yeah.
they want to stretch their legs and run around, then that could help parents to feel happier about being
Mhm.
part of society. This works
Yes.
really well in some places. We took our daughter on holiday to Greece one year, and the waitress just came up to the table when we were having dinner, and she was like, "Can I play with your daughter while you eat?" And I was so
What a
grateful
gift.
because I thought, yes, oh my goodness, of course, please, because I've not had a meal without a child sort of dancing on
Right?
my lap, or on,
Yeah.
on my husband's lap for so long. And she just went around with her and showed her the kitchen, and we could see her all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and there was the whole kitchen stuff was so sweet with her. They were all like, "Oh, this baby," and try this little bit of cheese, and it was so it
Wow.
felt so lovely, and I could tell this was just how they were with kids, and it
Mm.
wasn't the only restaurant where it happened. And I
Mhm.
thought, wow, how nice would this be if we could have some of that,
Yes.
in the UK where we were.
As we celebrate Mother's Day in the United States, what would you say to a new or struggling parent who feels like they're not doing enough, that they are not enough? What would you say to them?
It's not true.
Mhm.
You're doing your best, and you are enough for your baby. But if there's a lack, it's likely something that in the past and historically would have been provided by your community, and it's missing
Mm.
now because our communities have eroded. So the fault is not internally, it's a systemic one. And if we
Yeah.
can build relationships, and other people can step up and build relationships with new parents to help, then everyone can feel much happier about what they've got to offer this new generation.
Mothering Minds website says motherhood can be amazing. When it isn't, we're here to help. What if we all offered that kind of help? What if we supported the parents in our lives because of the belief that it really does take a village to raise a child? What if human kindness at work looks like a warm meal to a new parent, gracious words in the checkout line to an overwhelmed mom, or an offer to watch the kids so the parents can have a date night? I bet that if you look around, you'll find a creative way to help support a mom in your life. If you're interested in learning more about Mothering Minds and their therapeutic services, check out the link in the show notes. This episode is sponsored by my voiceover business, providing the sound of human kindness to all your media projects. Check out jennifersvoice.com to get in touch. And if you need a mom voice, I do that one pretty well. Until next time, look for ways to be a part of a village for a mom in your world. You really can make a difference. See you next time.